And we have other board members.
I'm still representing Dr. James McDonald, Commissioner of Health.
And not to rush to Jill, got your cup of coffee in front of you, but introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jill Faber, representing Attorney General Letitia James.
Great.
Trying to get my video set. Sorry.
Yes. Great. So I appreciate people's forbearance. We've moved the meeting up a little bit to accommodate the time of some of our applications. That means we also have a fairly short agenda for today. I don't have any other opening remarks other than I hope folks are enjoying the summer. There's at least some summer to go. So hopefully enjoy that too. First order of business is to approve the minutes of the previous board meeting as distributed. Does I have any comments, suggestions, changes, or concerns?
Not here.
None here. Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the previous meeting as distributed. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second. All in favor? Okay.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Minutes are approved. We have reports from our council, Rob Vanderblus.
Yep, so, good morning, Mark. No legislative report this month. The legislature's out of session. For regulations, I am pleased to report that the regulations for natural organic reduction will appear in the August 7th State Register and be effective on that date.
Effective on the 7th.
Effective on the 7th.
Well, I think I said last time, good work by many people in getting knowledgeable about that and bearing those. We've added extra lines to our office to make sure we can take all the calls once they come in.
Operators are standing by.
Operators are standing by. Anything else, Rob?
Nope.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions of Rob from legislative report, regulations report? I'll move on to the division report. Yep, go ahead. Jill? No?
Oh, no, I was just
Okay.
saying no, I was saying no, I had no questions. Sorry.
Okay. Division report?
Don't have much to report. I think I mentioned 2 weeks ago, we have a new senior accountant starting in September. More on that in an upcoming meeting. We are done. We're near the end of the hiring process for two investigators. We have to try to pick a preferred candidate, and quite frankly, we have an embarrassment of riches in this process, and it's a hard decision to make, especially.
None or both.
Literally, there are 8 candidates I would hire if I could,
Yeah, well,
but
good
we
cut.
only have 2 positions. So that's a problem. It's a good problem, it's a problem nonetheless. We do have another Cemetery 101 scheduled for October 17th. The date was wrong initially on the website. That's going to be Albany Rural Cemetery. And we have an upcoming one previously scheduled in Jefferson County on August 7th. Where is it in Jefferson? What town? Does anybody remember off the top of their head? It's on our website, dos.ny.gov/cemeteries.
Adams, New York.
Adams, New York. Cue the Adams family theme. No, other than that, which seems appropriate for us, doesn't it? Other than that, I really don't have much else to report. I should mention I am not reporting on abandonments this month. The report, we deferred our report till May last month, and because this meeting is following immediately on the conclusion of the quarter, I want to make sure we actually have all of the second calendar year quarters reports. So that'll be, I'm going to distribute it to the board in advance, but that'll be publicly available for discussion by the September meeting.
Okay.
Same thing with respect to our usual report on vandalism expenditures. There's some adjustments and number tracking that we are working on doing that weren't quite ready for today's meeting. So we'll have a more detailed report on that come September.
Okay.
And again, if we have it well in advance, we'll share it with the board well in advance.
Thank you. Okay, so nothing else from you.
Alicia, do you have any stats on, I guess those
Annual
were
reports.
changed really.
No change.
Okay,
So we'll move straight to the actual vandalism application.
does the board have any questions of Louis? Okay, so again, moving on quickly, we have two vandalism applications for dangerous monuments. I'll take them in the order on the agenda. The first is from Freedom Cemetery in Erie County, 22 stones in the amount of $29,056.15.
Should be noted that this is a merged cemetery with Forest Lawn.
Okay, it's a merged
Both of
cemetery.
these are.
But both of these are merged
Yeah.
cemeteries.
So technically, Forest Lawn is the applicant, he kept the old cemetery name just to be clear what cemetery concerns.
Okay, great.
This is
So-
Michael Katina,
Great, thank you, Michael.
the
Go ahead.
investigator. And Buffalo City Cemetery at Freedom is a small rural cemetery that's attached to a large urban cemetery in the town of Freedom, Cattaraugus County. They submitted an application for repair of 22 hazardous monuments. I visited the cemetery and confirmed that all 22 appeared to pose a hazard. The most recent monument was dated in 1917, and the cemetery stated they do not have lot owner records for that period. They did run a legal notice once a week for 3 weeks in Neighbor to Neighbor News for $107.15. They received no response. It's the division understanding the cemetery has determined that the lot owners cannot be located. The cemetery submitted 2 repair estimates, the lowest of which is from Western New York Lawn Service, estimated at $28,949 to reset 22 monuments on concrete foundations to a depth of 42 inches, and they offer a 20-year warranty. Buffalo City Cemetery has successfully completed other hazardous monuments project and is currently made their vandalism payments and filed their animal reports. I recommend approval for $29,056.15.
Okay. Thank you. Any council?
Two.
You want to do it, or you want me to do it? You do it, you have a problem.
First, if the board does approve the application, to recommend that the board make the approval subject to the availability of funds. 2, simply confirm our understanding from the last time Buffalo City Cemetery, Forest Lawn, had applications for hazardous monuments, Western New York was the lowest bidder. Our understanding that the cemetery will follow its related party transaction procedures should it choose to hire that firm. Was that the thing?
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I was gonna add is that our concern the last time around was that the bids had been collected, had appeared to have been collected by the related party at Forest Lawn. Apparently that was not the case. It was just old documentation that had his name on it, and in any event, this documentation was corrected. So, but the actual compliance with the related party transaction, this provisions will occur at the time of contracting, not at the time of us approving it.
Right. We don't actually approve that, personally approve the.
Correct. We really, I guess this is worth pointing out for everyone watching in TV land. We're using the low bid essentially to create a budget for what we give the cemetery. We have no relationship with the contractor, and indeed, there have been situations where our cemeteries have, notwithstanding the fact that we saw no reason to go with the higher bidder, have chosen, not related party, just they like the second contractor better, have chosen to go with the higher bidder and go out of pocket for the difference. And that's perfectly okay. It's not, it's the cemetery, once the cemetery has the money, as long as they're not pocketing money that they don't do, the opposite would create a problem. If they came in under budget, we want our money back. But if they want to spend extra money, they're free to. They're just for the sake of completeness, I'll note that there have been 1 or 2 cases in the last 10 years where we actually approved an amount based on the higher bid because of special circumstances. It's not the case here, but that's theoretically possible.
Good context. Thank you. Any questions with Louis on that?
Doesn't happen that they come up with their own money.
Very, very rare. If it's happened 3 times since I've been here, that's probably more than.
And it's,
I do remember 1 or 2 cases where a cemetery was like, you know, I know this other guy came in with a low bid, but we have an ongoing relationship with this guy. We know he does great work. No related parties. He just happens to do great work. He's the best contractor around. We're gonna go out of pocket some difference.
You could,
okay. All right, so,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
if I might, on this, let me
sure.
David Fleming representing Buffalo City Cemetery. So in just follow up with council's comments, the cemetery did in fact follow their enhanced related party guidelines in the solicitation of these bids, and it's their intention to follow their related party requirements when the contract is ultimately decided.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak to this matter? Any questions of the board members on the project? So I'll make a motion to approve the application for Freedom Cemetery, of a merged cemetery of Buffalo City Cemetery in the amount of $29,056.15, subject to the availability of funds. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Application is approved. The next one is Griffin Mills, which I understand is also a merged cemetery, Buffalo City Cemetery. Do I have someone to present that to the board?
Michael Katina again. Buffalo City Cemetery at Griffin Mills is a small rural cemetery in the town of West Falls, Erie County. They submitted an application for repair of 49 hazardous monuments. I visited the cemetery and confirmed that all 49 monuments appear to pose a hazard. The most recent monument was dated 1934, and the cemetery stated they do not have lot owner records for this period. They ran a legal notice once a week for 3 weeks in the Neighbor to Neighbor News for $125.69 with no response. It is the division's understanding that the cemetery has determined that the lot owners cannot be located. The cemetery submitted 2 repair estimates, the lowest of which was from Western New York Lawn Service, estimated for $55,337 to reset 49 stones on concrete foundations to a depth of 42 inches, and including a 20-year warranty. Once again, Buffalo City Cemetery has successfully completed other hazardous monuments project, and I recommend approval for $55,462.69.
Any questions from council?
No, just the same things I said before.
Great.
The same things I said before.
Okay. This meeting is being recorded. Any questions from members of the board?
No,
Okay. Might make the point, I don't know how recent these mergers were, but these cluster model was an attempt for us to help smaller cemeteries gain scale. And so I'm hopeful that this is a reflection of that being a successful model for some cemeteries.
And we will be following up in some form, probably short of a full-blown audit too. We've discussed this with corresponding when we were out there in spring, or late winter, I forget, to just check in and see how they're doing. We have no doubt that they're actually doing well, but it would actually be helpful to try to quantify how well they're doing, so we can, we see not necessarily first one buying the whole state, but consolidation in general as something that's worthy of serious consideration statewide, and to be able to demonstrate that it's working will be useful for our other regions.
Right, yeah, right, great. Okay, so I'll make a motion to accept approve the application for Griffin Mills, which is a merged cemetery with Buffalo City Cemetery in Erie County in the amount of $55,462.69, subject to the availability of funds. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Application is approved. That completes our applications for the vandalism fund. We have several other projects, one from Forest Lawn for Mausoleum.
Guess who's up again?
Yes, this is once again Michael Katina. The Buffalo City Cemetery at Forest Lawn is a large urban cemetery in the city of Buffalo, Erie County. They submitted an application for construction of a mausoleum with 288 single crypts and 96 tandem crypts, which can hold up to 480 casket spaces and 400 niches. This is phase one of a possible two-phase construction project at Forest Lawn. The mausoleum will be located next to the existing Serenity Mausoleum, which is currently the only mausoleum on site with available crypts. The Serenity is currently down to 24 interior crypts and 36 exterior crypts for a total of 119 casket spaces. There are no interior single crypts remaining and only 6 external single crypts available for sale. During the 2023 fiscal year, the cemetery had sold 37 crypts in the Serenity Mausoleum, indicating there is a strong demand for mausoleum space at the cemetery. Construction of the poured-in-place mausoleum cost is estimated to be $2,001,003. Buffalo City Cemetery will pay for the project with a PM loan of $3 million at 3% interest. To the term will be 10 years, and the PM with payments of $309,000 a year, a total of $3,090,000. Buffalo City Cemetery has a strong record of crypt and niche sales and has last successfully paid back a PM loan in March of 2023. Charles Crane, the accountant, reviewed the finances and recommends approval for the project. I also recommend approval for the project.
Any additional comments from council?
I actually, no, you go first. Point out this one also involves a permanent maintenance fund loan. So we have actually two separate actions for the board to take. Action, and Rob, I should let Rob do this because action number one is to move the mausoleum, subject to receipt of any local permits. I think they've actually got them all, but we always put the language in just in case. Action number two would be to recommend that Supreme Court in turn approve the PM loan.
If I may, I would recommend that the board adopt a resolution approving the cemetery's mausoleum application subject to the receipt of all required local permits and Supreme Court approval of a $3 million loan from the cemetery's permanent maintenance fund, and in turn recommend the Supreme Court approve the $3 million loan from the cemetery's permanent maintenance fund with a term and payback as described in the draft petition included in the application.
The substantive difference between what Rob said and what I just said, just for the record, is that if for some reason Supreme Court denies the loan, which it won't, but if it did, we don't want the project going forward based on this approval anyway. They'd have to come up with some other plan and come back to us. So he said it right.
And then point two, just for the purposes of secret, this qualifies as a type 2 action as a commercial building less than 4,000.
Okay. So the motion would be to approve the application for the mausoleum and the use of the PM loan and the recommend, no, you're shaking your head, so
So it's written, why don't you read it into the record, again, into the record, so that we can just follow up
Read it into the
immediately and say what he said.
Okay, so the proposal is that the cemetery board adopt a resolution, one, approving the cemetery's mausoleum application, subject to receipt of all required local permits and Supreme Court's approval of a $3 million loan from the cemetery's permanent maintenance fund, and two, recommending Supreme Court approval of a $3 million loan from the cemetery's permanent maintenance fund with a term and payback as described in the draft petition included in the application.
motion made. Any, do you have a second?
I'll second.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns for us? Anybody here?
No, I just have one question. It's just, super specific logistics. So this is an order that will be submitted to Supreme Court with the board's recommendations. Is that council will submit this as an exhibit to the Supreme Court application?
Right.
I'm
They'll
just
send
trying
you
to
a letter.
logistics of, is that how it works?
Right, we'll send you a letter saying exactly what the board is about to vote to approve. And you'll attach that as an exhibit to your papers, and maybe they won't even need to call us.
That-
Not you personally, but yeah.
The cemetery will be submitting that.
The cemetery
that was my
permits
question.
petition.
No, but I mean, the idea is that you'll have a piece of paper from us before, when you go into court.
Right.
To smooth the process.
As the cemetery is aware, the cemetery board needs to be placed on notice, not be made a party to the proceeding, but merely placed on notice, and given that the board's already taken action, there won't be anything for us to do.
So it's, why do you vote to approve it? I have two things to say.
I have motion, a second. Any other discussion? Do you want to say something now?
No, I want you to approve this first.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application is approved.
So this is just two general procedural notes. Number one is, there have been times where cemeteries go to court to get a PM loan without coming to the board first. And that presents a problem both to the cemetery, the court, and to us, because there'll already be deadlines ticking that have to get extended because we only meet once a month. And the court's gonna look at your papers and say, what's the cemetery board got to say about this? Well, I don't know, we didn't ask. So what we're doing now is absolutely the best practice. If you're going to have to go to court, get a recommendation from us first and give us
Right.
your payment in all but final form. This isn't really directed to you guys so much as to like the broader world. Second, just an internal procedural thing. We've started including draft resolution language, which I managed to butcher in this case, not by doing it from memory, in all of our recommendations for the board. What I'm going to start doing starting next month is give you a cheat sheet that pulls those out and lists each of them, so you don't have to have the entire write-up in front of you. You would just have that one page of all of the proposed resolutions, at least in the cases where we don't have a formal resolution that council prepared in advance.
Okay, thank you. Any questions to that? So we've completed that transaction. We have another application from Woodlawn Cemetery for a mausoleum.
Mike Seelman handled this one, is not on. I'm tempted to ask Michael Katina to present it just because he's doing everything today. But I don't think he actually knows anything about it, so I'll do it.
Yeah, no, I do
Woodlawn-
not have any paperwork.
Woodlawn sought approval of it. Woodlawn Cemetery in Syracuse has a couple of different mausoleum complexes. One of them is getting pretty full, the Sunset Mausoleum Complex. They came to us, should have it in front of me, I want to say September of last year. It was the end of last year. September 22?
23.
Yeah, that's what I said, September of last year, I was right. There you go. September 23.
First time this year.
It was the first time for everything. To get approval of a mausoleum project, at the time it was a project of about 7,000 square feet. The board approved it, subject to receipt of local permits, and signed a short form EAF. They subsequently realized, and I think part of this had to do with the change in leadership. Their new president sort of they decided to re-examine the plans and they found that they could build something in a slightly different location, same general area, with more spaces for less money. And because we approved a specific thing, they're back here for an amended approval of that project. And because it's over 4,000 square feet, we've treated it as an unlisted, where's the complete report here? I'm in the wrong place. We treat it as an unlisted application for purposes of seeker. The cemetery submitted a new part 1 to the application. We've done a new part 2 and 3. Quite frankly, from a seeker perspective, there's nothing different. This is still a building that's not going to be a mausoleum. Not clear to me whether it actually counts as a building or not because you can go into it. I'm not codes, I'm not the state education department, I'm not going to go there. It's not necessary. But this mausoleum is not going to be visible from outside the cemetery. It's going to have minimal impact on anyone visiting the cemetery itself. There'll be a few weeks of minimal disruption while they're bringing stuff in and out, but access to the existing piece of the mausoleum will continue unabated during construction, and nobody's graves are going to be materially affected by building it. Woodlawn's, generally speaking, well-run, profitable, and if they decided they need this space, this is we essentially defer to their. We see no reason not to in this case defer to their business judgment on it. So much. If you have anything to discuss, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll read you the draft resolution.
How's it being paid for?
General fund.
I have no other questions, so I'll read the resolution.
Sure. Let me just make sure they're not borrowing the money.
They're not.
They're not, right? They actually have like this much money in the general fund, which is a sign of just how well they're doing. So the division's recommendation is that the board adopt a resolution, 1, approving the cemetery's amended application to construct a mausoleum, not at a cost not to exceed $4.885 million, subject to the cemetery's receipt of all required building permits. And 2, authorizing the board chair on behalf of the board to sign the attached draft part 3 of a short environmental assessment form, parentheses. We're going to have to read you some new language. I made one mistake when I wrote part 3. So the language of part 3 is slightly different. So let me read you the corrected part 3 that you'll be signing so that it's clear what we're referring to. This project consists of constructing a new mausoleum near the cemetery's already developed Sunset Mausoleum Complex. It will contain 660 crypts and 600 niches and be approximately 8,000 square feet. It will not have any measurable impact on the surrounding community and will not greatly change the area of I can fix that still. I'll fix that later. Of the cemetery where it will be built. Based on the cemetery board's experience with this type of project, mausoleum buildings have minimal impact on the surrounding community, especially where, as here, the building will not be visible outside the cemetery. So, having read the corrected part 3, I'm going to give you the resolution again because it's that you're approving the cemetery's amended application, not in an amount not to construct a mausoleum, in an amount not to receive $4.885 million, subject to the cemetery's receipt of all required building permits, and authorizing the board chair Mark Patterson to sign the attached draft part 3 of a short environmental assessment form referring to the corrected attachment that I just read.
No comments from council.
So I'll make that motion to approve as read. Second. Any other discussion?
No.
Anybody else wish to comment? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion, application is approved.
Mark, just as a matter of housekeeping, we're gonna have to print that up and bring it to you later.
Okay, you know where I live.
Yep.
Last application is Puddler Cemetery, which abandonment.
One of you guys want to do it since you're there?
Yeah, I can start it and then Alicia maybe can, pick up the accounting part. Len Green from the division. We have Hudler Cemetery, which is a small cemetery in town of Shandaken, Ulster County. It has been at risk of abandonment for quite a while now, that the trustees have, on their own, have tried to recruit new members unsuccessfully. And so there were 4 remaining trustees, and for various reasons, they all had to resign. And they submitted their resignation letters at a special lot owners meeting that was held on July 11th this year, that division staff attended. And the meeting was advertised for 3 consecutive weeks in the Daily Freeman, the Kingston newspaper, and no one attended the meeting. There was no response. There was no takers to step up and to recruit new trustees for the cemetery. So effectively, the board resigned, and the town, they abandoned to the town at the meeting.
The town of what?
The town of Shandaken.
Okay. Any other comments from staff, council, or otherwise?
Just as a reminder, so the board's action here would either confirm the determination of abandonment, reverse the determination of abandonment, or the board may seek additional.
Okay, and this is simply about determining abandonment, it's not an abandonment fund application
There may subsequently be one, it's just ain't it.
from the town.
One thing I just want to mention by way of background, is that Shandaken has already taken over there's another abandoned cemetery in town, Shandaken Rural. They seem to be doing a good job of running it, so, I mean, obviously, towns have obligations with respect to cemeteries, but I still think it's worth pointing out where a town, especially with Mr. Town Supervisor sitting here looking at me, where a town is doing a good job of cemeteries that we run, running cemeteries that we're running safe, it's worth pointing out.
The town, they applied for abandonment funds for the Shandaken Rural Cemetery for fence repair, mowers, and I think that was
I
it.
think I went down there to look at it with you, if I remember
Yeah,
right.
they didn't require much, a very small cemetery, but the town, they're still doing a good job each time I drive by. And in this past trip, when we went down for this special meeting, we stopped at the cemetery, and it's well maintained, so the town is taking full responsibility for that cemetery, so I expect they will do the same for Hudler.
Thank them for that. So the motion is to what? Do we just read it?
So confirm our determination.
Confirm our determination of the Hudler Cemetery as abandoned. Okay. Any other questions?
No.
All right, all in favor? Did I take a vote, motion, take a motion in a second? Motion a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
all right. The determination of abandonment is approved. I think that's our last bit of business for this month's meeting. We always look forward to a public comment on these matters or any other matters that are pertinent to the board's responsibilities. Is there anybody online that would like to address the board?
Yes, hello.
you-
Regarding,
Can you introduce yourself, ma'am?
yes, my name is Chris. I'm calling in from Pakiti.
Okay, Chris.
I have a question regarding the natural organic reduction rules and regulations that have been put out. On section 204.2, section A, stating that only cemetery corporations are eligible to apply for approval to operate an NOR facility. Could you explain the reasoning behind only allowing cemeteries to operate as NOR facilities? Is there a land requirement by New York State that forbids the disposal of the remaining compost outside of cemeteries?
So the reason for the requirement is statutory. So when the legislature passed the legislation for natural organic reduction in New York, cemetery corporations are the entities that are allowed to operate those NOR facilities.
I'll add that we didn't draft the statute, so we can't really speak to the intent of the legislature.
Understood. In that case, that perhaps brings me to my second question. And if this is the wrong committee, then please let me know. But is New York treating NOR remains in the same category as cremated remains, or is it up to a local county? Because there's currently no statewide law dictating where the ashes can be scattered. Is that going to be the same for the disposal of NOR remains to also be determined by local county?
Will you repeat the question so I didn't quite hear, but
You rather understand the question.
Well, so there's a couple of parts. Is New York State treating it the same, treating NOR remains the same way as cremated remains? I think, as that's a broad question, the broad response would be no. There was a further follow-up question about scattering. And if my recollection off the top of my head is correct, you'll see there's different language between not-for-profit corporation law, paragraph I of section 1517, and not-for-profit corporation law, paragraph I of section 1518. And the sort of, the punchline there is that NOR remains need to be placed in cemeteries.
I also want to correct something I think I heard on scattering. There's no specific state law on scattering per se. You don't, like, you cannot scatter, but a couple things. You can't scatter cremated remains on somebody's property without their permission. And in a case that came before the board last year, the board made pretty clear, at least on the facts presented, that a business charging for accepting cremated remains would have to be incorporated as a cemetery corporation.
Got it. So base.
Hi guys, I just had a question real quick. Would I be
But,
able to ask?
One question at a time, please.
Chris, are you calling as do you have a particular role? You're asking us just as an interested party?
No, just as a constituent.
So just as a constituent.
Yeah, okay. And have we answered your questions?
Sort of. I apologize. Perhaps it's the audio, but you mentioned that based on the nonprofit regulations, section 15 to 17, that cuts out that both cremated remains and also the newly natural organic reduction remains have to be placed in cemeteries. That's
not what council said.
Okay, then could you repeat or clarify? Apologies.
So the language of the two sections of the law, 1517I and 1518I, are different. Right? To your question about scattering, if your question was whether, just the main difference is that naturally, organically reduced remains have to be placed in a cemetery. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Could you explain the rationale for that? Because I know in Washington State, based on DNA sampling they've done, the naturally composted soil bears no DNA resemblance.
So again, that's statutory. So I can't speak to the legislature's intent.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
All right, and then there was another question?
Hi, how you doing? My name is Matt from Queens. I just had a question for you guys. Can you expand on the rationale for excluding privately and family-owned funeral homes from the legal definition of cemeteries? That's in section 204(1).
Again, that's statutory. So that's 1503 of the not-for-profit corporation law.
Also, under current law, before there was natural organic reduction, funeral homes are not cemeteries.
Private cemeteries.
Oh, you said funeral homes and private cemeteries.
Oh. Matt, did you say funeral homes and private cemeteries?
Just funeral homes, privately and
Oh.
family-owned funeral homes from the legal
Oh, then
definition
right,
of cemetery.
Right, funeral homes having nothing to do with natural organic reduction, funeral homes are not cemeteries. We've had a strict separation between funeral homes and cemeteries since 1998. And the natural organic reduction law, by limiting the process of natural organic reduction, like the process of cremation, to cemetery corporations, is a continuation of that law. Again, we didn't write this statute, so any questions about why really are questions for the legislature, not us.
Understood.
Okay. Again, I asked the question, I mean, if you're when we have some rules about registered lobbyists identifying themselves, if that's the case. I can't remember in the remote meetings law, I think we no?
Yes.
Yes. So if you represent somebody, I think you need to make sure that you identify yourself as a lobbyist. If that's the case, that's really the only reason I asked the question about role, what role you were playing. Did we answer your questions, Matt?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Is there anyone else online who would like to address the board?
Julie Snyder, CEO of the Forest Lawn Cemetery Group. I just wanted to thank the board for their expedient review of our mausoleum application and for today's approval. It is much appreciated given the demand, and we are also very grateful for the continued approval for the broken monuments. So thank you for all those efforts. Appreciated.
Welcome. Anybody else online wishing to speak to the board? Anybody else would like to speak to the board?
Sure, David Fleming, representing New York State Association of Cemeteries. Just want to thank council for providing the update on the NOR regulation publication. It's been a question that's been circulating for a few weeks since approval by the cemetery board, so it's nice to know that there's a date specific coming up, and there has been obviously a lot of interest from other states in what New York is doing, so it's good to have that be definitive and forward to its enact.
Yeah, it was good work, and in government time, it was expeditiously completed. That might be a different universe, but just the same. Anyone else wishing to speak, address the board? Okay, thank you for your comments. I hope that we've been able to provide the information people are looking for. Our next meeting is September 10th. And I don't think there's anything else to add to the public record. If that's all we need to do, if that completes our business, I'll make a motion to adjourn the August meeting of the cemetery board.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. The first motion meeting is adjourned.